Today's video is a cloud breakdown. And cloud breakdowns are the ideas or assumptions or expectations, concepts that folks have out there that I just couldn't understand, that I couldn't take it into my body, into my mind, into my heart. These were concepts or expectations that felt really lofty to me because of childhood experiences, things like forgiveness or turning the other cheek. And today, the cloud breakdown is about boundaries, because I had to break down these concepts for myself. I had to break them down and apply it to my mind, my heart, and my spirit. I had to understand them and take them fully in a way that I could understand in little tiny pieces. So today, my cloud breakdown is about boundaries, because I grew up not having boundaries, not knowing a lot about boundaries. Either rules were very strict and unexplained. I didn't know why those rules were there. Or there were no boundaries at all. But I didn't know that that wasn't normal. It was my normal life. So as a recovering codependent, as a trauma riser, as a recovering empath, and as a psychotherapist myself, I learned to take some of these self-healing and spiritual ideas and break them down. So today we're going to talk about boundaries. And I'm going to be looking over here because I do take notes. One of the ways to look at boundaries is a big, hard, yelled out no. No. And you feel it in your entire body. And I'll give examples. One example was I was walking down the street once, and I was pregnant at the time, and I was walking to my office, and a young man came up beside me on a bicycle, and he asked me for directions. So I turned over and I was going to give him directions, but it turned out that what he wanted to do was assault me. And I screamed at the top of my lungs, no, with my whole body, and I ran. And that was a hard no. The hard no's are when you feel it in your entire body. You can't help it. The no comes out of your mouth. Another example of that was there was a man who was yelling at my son. He must have been 10 years old while he was playing soccer. One of those angry soccer dads who kept yelling at my son about what to do. And I remember just feeling a full body, mind, heart, and spirit, no. And I made that very clear. That's the first type of boundary, is the hard no, when the no just comes out of your mouth. Okay. Number 2, there's a type of boundary that feels like a stopping point. It feels like, I've been at this party a little too long, and you can feel it, but you want to have some internal experience. You want to be like, yeah, it's time to go. Sometimes when I'm playing with my dog and we're playing and he starts to want to play a little harder, I know it's a time to stop. It's a time to stop because I'm setting him up to maybe play aggressively with me, and I don't want to do that. It's like, time to stop. Another time to stop, at least for me, is gossip. If I'm with a group of people, even my family members, especially my family members, if I feel like talking about someone and their life turns into gossip, for me, that's a very clear sign. It's time to stop. And it's gentle, but it's like a little line. It's a line there. In some occasions, when I feel that someone is getting too friendly and I don't really know them, and I love friendliness, and if anyone who knows me knows that I'm extremely friendly, but it's a vibe. It's a vibe like, I don't know you at all, and you're asking me things and asking for things that the relationship doesn't warrant for that. So it's time to stop. It's just time to move away. And that's a type of boundary. The stopping point boundary. Let's call it that. This is my favorite. Number 3 is the I care boundary. This is really important for people who have experienced neglect, who weren't seen. Remember, I talked about the party of one kid, the abused kid, the neglected kid, the one who was always fine, so parents didn't pay attention. And this is boundary number 3. It's the I care boundary. And what it means is I care about how I'm spoken to. Please don't raise your voice. Please don't call me names. I care about how someone touches my body, about who's in my body, whether that be kissing or sexing. I care about that. I care about how I feel after I've joined a group. I care. What do I feel about being in that group, about teaching that group, about participating with that group? Can you feel that the boundary begins just by saying, I care? I care if someone calls me on my special occasions or my achievements. This is really important for the kids that were always fine for the party of one, because they act like they don't care. And yet that's a boundary. It's a need. I care about this. I care about how much drinking goes on around me. And I know I come from an alcoholic home, so I was taught to not care about that, although sometimes it made me feel extremely, most times, unsafe. So I care about that. And then the last one is number 4, and I won't go into detail about it right now, but it's I prefer. I prefer to not sleep late. I prefer to only eat this. I prefer to only date people who are in recovery or self-healing, evolving, expanding. I prefer to drink in places where I feel safe. I prefer this. And so see how gentle and soft and sovereign that is? Doesn't impinge on anybody else. And they get to prefer too. That's really important. Everyone else gets to prefer. This is who I prefer to date. This is who I prefer to live with. It's a preference, but it's also a boundary. So the boundaries are the hard no with all your body, the stopping point boundary, the I care boundary, and the preference boundary. And that's a cloud breakdown of boundaries.